Hello and welcome back to the podcast. This is episode 75. And in this episode, I want to talk about the power of storytelling, particularly for you as a wellness expert or a health practitioner, and in two contexts. So the first is storytelling, where you utilize stories, case studies, testimonials of clients that you've worked with or friends that you've supported if you're first starting out. And the second context is your own personal storytelling. Now, obviously, this is only relevant where you are an example of your ideal client. So I'll give you an example, and this will actually showcase the importance of this episode for you and how it can completely skyrocket your business in terms of attracting ideal clients and getting people to take action. I had a client inside our consistent clients community who is an expert in prediabetes and reversing prediabetes, and she has been, working really hard in her business, really focused, creating amazing content. A lot of her content speaking to the symptoms of prediabetes, simple tips and strategies to help you to reverse your prediabetes. Lots of great calls to action to book a call with her, but there just wasn't that momentum that I know and that she knew that she deserved to be having for the input that she was giving to her business. And so we had a little chat about it, and we talked about some of her highest performing content. And actually, on reflection, one of her highest performing reels and some of the most engaging content had been around her own story of prediabetes. The other thing that we talked about was, what actually drives people to action to reverse their prediabetes or to want to focus on reversing their prediabetes, because for this particular symptom or particular ailment, one thing that she had noticed was that particularly in her home country of the US, it is a conditional set of symptoms that something like 80% of those with it don't necessarily know they have or haven't got a diagnosis. Now, forgive me if I've completely butchered those statistics, but it's one of those health challenges where those who suffer from it are typically kind of problem unaware and therefore definitely solution unaware as well. So we talked about what makes somebody motivated to solve that particular problem or want to solve it. And she told me that, particularly with prediabetes and with lots of, symptoms, and this might relate to the work that you do, it's about resolving those symptoms and learning to manage those symptoms as quickly as possible in order to prevent longer term repercussions or, consequences of not treating it. And so we talked about what, again, might motivate somebody to action that early management or prevention of future disease and health consequences. And in her experience, a lot of conversations that she's had with her ideal client are around fear or worry that they will experience the same health challenges that their parents or grandparents have experienced. And so we started to look more at this emotional connection that people have with their fear or worry or concern about not addressing the problem. And it's such an important element of your ideal client's identity to really understand. What is it that is getting in the way of them taking action? And that action is investing in your support. So another example might be if your clients are wanting to learn or benefit from the practice of yoga or meditation or breath work. For most people, the barrier to entry is not having enough time. And so we need to help people to understand why it's important to make time, how to make time, and tell that story about, how to overcome the things that are getting in your way on that journey, ultimately to change. Now, this episode is all about the power of storytelling. So I want to give you a framework to tell more compelling stories in your social media content, in your email marketing, on your sales pages, because, and this is a really important point that I made on my Instagram stories the other day, most wellness experts are focusing too much of their messaging on the features of their work. So features of your work would be things like, this is my program, this is how many sessions you have with me, this is how long the sessions are, these are the additional resources that you'll get, these are the additional tests that you'll get, and so on. And those are features. Benefits are the thing that most wellness experts forget to talk about. And the benefits are best communicated through the power of storytelling. So the benefits are, the transformation, the experience of going from point A, where your client currently is, stuck, confused, overwhelmed, to point B, which is their desired outcome, their dream outcome, their new reality. And if you can leverage the power of storytelling to explain those benefits of working with you, then I promise you, you will skyrocket your business and you will start magnetizing clients to you like never before. And the client that I just mentioned before, when we talked about the power of storytelling and she integrated into her message in the form of a bunch of 6 or 7 Instagram stories where she took her audience on this journey that I'm about to talk you through of her own personal experience, with the final call to action being, if you want this reality for yourself as well, then book a call with you. And she said within 24 hours, she had had 3 discovery calls booked. So this works. This is how I sell in my business. This is how the most effective experts across any fields sell when there is personal transformation involved. So what is the framework for telling a powerful story? Now, this framework works whether you are telling your own story of transformation or you're telling the story of a previous client or an existing client. And remember that you can anonymize your client testimonials in this storytelling process. You can use another name. You can not use a name. You can just refer to my client. So think about, as I give you this framework, what is most suitable in your business. Is it your story? Is it your client's stories? Or, and this would be, the ultimate, is it a combination of both, where some days you're talking about your story and other days you're integrating the stories of your most successful client transformations? So we start with, in this storytelling process, and another way of talking about this story is what is often referred to as the hero's journey. So the hero is the central character in the film or the movie, and the central character typically follows this path in any of the most well-known, story-based or narrative-based films, whether that is, Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit or something else, a Harry Potter typical framework. It follows exactly this. And so it's the story and the narrative arc that we are used to seeing in blockbuster, Hollywood films. So you're going to learn this framework in this episode so that you can use it as well. And it'll make a lot of sense to you as I talk through it. And I've broken it down into 5 simple stages to simplify it quite a bit. The hero's journey, or that narrative arc, is a much longer and much more thoughtful and a model more broken down into probably 10 or 12 parts. And if you Google the hero's journey, you'll get that more complex model to learn and understand. But I'm going to summarize it for you into 5 parts. So the first part is looking back. So think about a client that you've worked with or your own story, and I want you to start by looking back. So this part of the story would be framed or sound something like, when I met Lauren, or when I met Sarah, or when I met Jack or Jason, he or she or they were ... Okay, they were struggling. They were overwhelmed. They were XYZ emotion that your typical client feels when they come into your world. What is that feeling or emotion? What do your ideal clients tell you they're feeling when they come into your world? And do you have that written down somewhere? Most experts, and if you don't already, have some kind of onboarding form. And, in that onboarding form, you may ask questions like, what are your biggest challenges right now? What are your greatest frustrations? And being able to draw that language as part of your storytelling and your marketing is really helpful. So he or she was XYZ, and also he or she wanted XYZ. So she wanted to feel more confident when she looked in the mirror. She wanted to know exactly how to focus her time and energy when it came to nutrition. She wanted to understand how breath work could help her to move through the brain fog. But she couldn't, or he couldn't have this because he felt he was time poor. He felt that he was trying all of these different things and yet nothing ever seemed to be working. He or she didn't know that it was possible to reverse their prediabetes. They didn't know that it was possible to take action and, learn and understand the power of XYZ. Talking about the emotion as you look back, he or she felt these certain feelings. She felt anxious or worried or concerned or lost or any number of emotions that your ideal client has felt. It's these sorts of statements that will really frame that looking back. So he or she wanted, he or she was stuck, he or she was feeling, he or she wanted but didn't know they could have, he or she felt all of these certain things. So this is the first part of the story. The second part of the story, and this might be presented as, the second slide in a carousel, or the second story in a series of stories, or the second paragraph in an email. The second part of the story is about that rock bottom moment. And in every film that you've ever seen where there is a central character going on a journey of transformation, going on an adventure, going, on this journey of self-discovery, there's a rock bottom moment. And your ideal client will have had this rock bottom moment too. It's the moment when they realize that it's time to change. So he or she had been struggling with these symptoms for X number of years or X number of months, and framing that period of time in which they had been struggling. He or she had tried XYZ. He or she had, done the diets. He or she had invested in the things. What were the attempts that were made by this hero in their journey? What were the attempts that they made to fix the problem that didn't work for them? That's all part of that rock bottom moment, of that realization that something's got to change, something has to be done differently. And if you can articulate and bring emotion and connection to that rock bottom moment, what happens is those listening to or reading that story suddenly feel heard and seen. They feel that they are understood because you're describing a moment that they have either potentially faced themselves or that they are afraid that they may face at some point in the future as well. And it creates a call to action. It encourages somebody to get into action mode and start to move themselves forward. They see the relatable element of somebody else experiencing that rock bottom moment as well. So that's the second part. The third part is where you share the journey of working together. So after this person hit rock bottom, or after you experienced your rock bottom, if you're telling your own story, you took action. And that action should be in the form of investing in support, because that's what you want your ideal client who is reading or listening to this story to do as well. You want them to invest in your support. So drawing on either your own experience of investing in support or your client's experience of investing in your support, and really breaking down what that work looked like together. So the resolutions that were made, the commitments that were made, the realizations that were made in that process of working together, the shifts that occurred, the new focuses and new attention that was placed on maybe new habits or new ways of thinking, or breaking old ways of thinking, or literally, new actions, new daily habits, new disciplined action that you helped them to integrate into their life. New actions that were taken to move them into the direction of a new reality. So really sharing, Hannah, Sarah, Jason, Jack, Bill, Bobby did all of these things together. He made a resolution that he was no longer going to XYZ. She decided that it was time for change. And in that process, in that work together, we doubled down on XYZ. We explored ABC. We decided this together. We spent time focusing on this. we changed this, we did this, really illustrating or bringing a picture to the work that was done together in that third section of the story. Hopefully this is all making sense, and you're probably maybe taking notes as you're listening to this because there's a lot in this. So there's 2 more parts of the story before we get to the conclusion. The penultimate, the 4th part, is the results. So this is where you really hone on what that work together in that last part of the story, what that actually led to from this to that. And that's a great way of framing it. Sarah went from being this, confused, lost, overwhelmed, or, feeling these symptoms, to that, this outcome, feeling, unlimited energy, being able to bound out of bed in the morning, being in control of, feeling confident in, and making it very feelings and emotion based is what drives people into action. So results can be both measurable and tangible, but they can also be emotion-led and maybe even identity-led. So somebody becomes some other version of themselves in this process, and really diving into that in this storytelling process. And then the final part of the story is the birth of this new reality. And this is where you really get to have fun. You really get to describe where your ideal client is today, the new reality that they are experiencing. He or she is now this. He or she now feels this. He or she now sees this when they look in the mirror. And the final piece, this is all possible for you as well. That's how we want to conclude this story. This journey, this from rock bottom to new reality, this is possible for you too. And it takes some practice to be able to articulate this type of story. And like I said, you can do it in an Instagram post, you can do it in a LinkedIn post, you can do it on your website, you can do it in emails, but you need to be doing this. You need to be telling these stories. And when that final call to action takes place, and that final call to action should be, if you want this too, because this is possible for you, then tap the link below and book a call with me today. Or tap the link below to read about my program. I have 3 spots available over the next 5 days for you if you want this new reality. Suddenly, you're not just talking about the program. You're not just talking about the free discovery call. You're not just talking about buy my program, course, mentorship, whatever. You have taken your audience on a journey of reflection, of connection to the possibilities, of feeling seen and heard. And all of this creates the most incredible level of trust, of a feeling that you empathize with them because you can articulate the feelings that they are feeling. And it's that feeling seen and feeling heard that creates a safe environment for that person to invest in your support when they have been thinking, should I, shouldn't I? Is this right for me? Isn't it? Is this the type of person who can actually help me? Have they helped other people like me? If they can relate to that story, which you're going to get better and better at telling, then that is going to be the most powerful call to action of all. So if you're promoting your program, if you're promoting discovery calls and you're not getting traction, chances are there is an opportunity for you to more effectively and more frequently integrate the power of storytelling. And especially when it comes to health and well-being, the transformation is everything. The emotional connection that somebody has with you because you're showing them what's possible is everything. The logistics, the features of your work become irrelevant. The time of the session, the number of sessions, all of those things just become a byproduct of the belief that your audience now have in what is possible for them. And that belief is what drives someone into action, to get out their credit card, to get out their debit card, to pay you to get the support that they know that they need. I hope that this has been helpful. I'd love to know how you get on with integrating some of this storytelling into your business. Know that it has the potential to change everything about your marketing and your messaging. I'm excited to see how it goes for you. And I look forward to seeing you in our next episode. Take care, and I'll see you soon.